Where'd you get that? Do you have the stats and stuff?
Stats are on the sheet. All right, we'll get started here once we get 10 or so like normal. Brad said hi there.
Hey, Brad. Bradley. Hi, Bradley.
Oh, it's nice and warm in here. If I take this hat off, I'm going to look real crazy hair, so I'm going to keep it on for the Facebook Live. Welcome to Facebook Live, sponsored by CW's. You know, we want to thank CW's for their sponsorship. If you've enjoyed any of these Facebook Lives, we ask that you go and check them out for all your sports and apparel need. Again, thank you, CW's. And before we get started, how about a live look at Langford Field here.
Michael and I were just talking. I think in our lifetime, this is only the second time we can remember seeing so much white on the football field. Last time being '96 against Herman, and that was particularly ice. That wasn't so much snow. I guarantee it's the first time this turf has had a snow plus football game going on the same day. So it could be an interesting night.
Which, interestingly enough, this would be the sectional game if we still had the old district. So same ground as Herman, and it's nice and snowy out. So again, thank you. We want you to be interactive, ask any questions. As we get later in the season, there's just, not a whole lot of the outside area to talk about, so we'll talk a lot about the game. We're going to do a preview of the Class 2 Sweet 16. And that's kind of where, we'll do a little bit of a breakdown of the last game against Clark County. So any questions you have, we will try to answer them. Do want to have a couple announcements, I guess, before. Last week we had the preview of the Monroe City basketball teams. This week on Wednesday they will be playing in action as they play the basketball jamboree. The boys at Monroe City, the girls I think are at Marion County. I think they play Highland, Bowling Green, and Marion County in the jamboree. So if you get a chance to watch them, please do. And I know the districts came out, and Monroe City is going to be basically in the same district as last year, except they're on the different side of the state. So it could be interesting. You can check them out on the Mission website. But no St. Louis schools until we get until a state championship, basically. So we're going to be going out west after districts if we would happen to win out in the Kansas City area. So
hey, Kurt, yeah, they are trying to push some of the snow off right now. So
they've been working on it for the last half hour, trying to get at the minimum, get the yard lines and the yard markers and the sidelines.
And for those that aren't from Monroe, at 2:30 today, this was completely clear. We had another little patch of snow come through late afternoon.
About 3:30.
That coated everything again. So the stands were clear, field was clear, and then we've got now a covering of the stands and covering of the field. So.
One other shout out before we get started. We want to give a shout out to Lauren Youngblood. Lauren Youngblood this week was named second team All-State in softball as an infielder. So congratulations to Lauren, well deserved, and we'll look forward to seeing Lolo on the basketball court here shortly. So as we get started with the football, let's go with the Mayor of Huntington, Brad's rankings this week. No top 10 for Brad, as he went ahead and ranked the top 16 teams, the 16 teams left in Class 2. His rankings this week: number 1, Luther North; number 2, Blair Oaks; number 3, Lamar; number 4, Lathrop; number 5, Monroe City; number 6, Lawson, who will play number 4, Lathrop; number 7, Clark County, who will play Monroe; number 8, Ava; number 9, Caruthersville; number 10, Lift for Life Academy; 11, Fairgrove; 12, Holden; 13, Summit Christian; 14, Versailles; 15, Charleston; and 16, South Callaway. Yes, KKO. Happy birthday to KKO. He is 18 today. I can't quite get my head around some of these kids already turning 18, but yes, it is his birthday tonight. So as we get started here, we're going to go ahead. The last part of this broadcast will be basically all Clark County, Monroe City centric, along with any questions that you have. But outside of that, we're going to do just kind of our version of bracketology for the Sweet 16. So let's just go through. District 1 in Class 2 is going to be the 1 seed Charleston, 15th in Brad's ranking, versus the 3 seed Caruthersville, 9th in Brad's ranking. Last week, Charleston, a 50-27 winner over St. Pius the 10th in Festus. Caruthersville won 30-7 over Jefferson. 3 common opponents between these two. They both blew out Portageville and Malden. They both took pretty bad beatings to Hayti, who is the overwhelming favorite to win Class 1. The difference, Charleston lost 70-8 to Hayti. Caruthersville lost 32-6, one of Hayti's closest games. So, my pick, Caruthersville, I picked them 35-20. So that is who I think will win that district. You got any thoughts on District 1?
No, not really. I got to be honest with you, I don't. The thing about District 1 is, unfortunately, I don't foresee them being a factor.
Yeah, they will play the winner of District 2, which is Luther North, the 1 seed first in the rankings, and the 2 seed Live for Life. Luther North, a 68-0 winner last week over DeShane. Live for Life, a 30-6 winner over Principia. Luther North, I'm not going to say they're going to win the state championship, but I 100% believe they are the most talented team in Class 2. They have 3 seniors that are going to have already pledged Division 1 this year, including Buford, their offensive lineman, who is going to Missouri. They have a linebacker that hasn't committed, but he is going to go Division 1, and then they have a running back that's going to go to Arkansas State, and they have 5 juniors that are going to play Division 1, including a couple of the top players in the state. Their defensive tackle, I think, is one of the top 10 or 15 defensive tackles in the country. So, very talented. They played the toughest schedule in Class 2, and I think they roll 50-14 is my prediction on that game. District 5 is who the winner of our game tonight will play. That is the 1 seed Blair Oaks, 2nd in Brad's ranking, against the 2 seeds South Callaway, 16th in Brad's ranking, and Mary Live for Life is in St. Louis. It's almost downtown St. Louis on Broadway, I think. So,
really tough draw for them, by the way, coming into districts and having to face a Luther North team that is stacked is probably understated. And quite frankly, I don't think Luther North has a problem until they face whoever wins this game getting ready to match up, and most likely the game you're getting ready to call, which is Blair Oaks, South Callaway.
So this is the biggest mismatch right in this round in Class 2. Blair Oaks is playing as good as anyone. Their quarterback, Nolan Hare, is the defending Class 3 first-team quarterback. He's putting up just video game numbers. 44 total touchdowns this year, 36 passing. Has not thrown an interception, 98 career passing touchdowns, and over 7,600 yards passing in his career. He is really good. I watched the video on him. He looks like Chase Daniel for all you fans that watch the old Missouri quarterback. That's what he looks like running the offense. He's a special player. They're going to roll South Callaway. Brad says by 70. I picked 60-6. It's not going to be close. So District 6 is Monroe and Clark County. We will talk about that after we get through this. District 1 on the other side of the bracket is Ava, the 1 seed, 8th in the rankings, and the 2 seed is Fairgrove, 11th in the rankings. One of the more even matchups in the class. I think tonight, Monroe, Clark County, Ava, Fairgrove, and I would probably say Summit, Christian, and Holden are your other games that should be pick'em games, basically. Ava won last week 36-28 over Liberty. Fairgrove 20-12 over Stratford. I think it goes down to the wire this week. I have Fairgrove in an upset 20-14. I think I could go either way. But again, kind of like that class, I guess this is Class 3. I guess like District 1, where you got Luther North, this district runs into Lamar. Lamar, in District 2, the 1 seed, 3rd in the rankings, playing 3 seed, 14th ranked for Sales. Lamar 36-6 last week over Sarcoxy. Versailles an upset last week over El Dorado Springs. I think El Dorado Springs had got them earlier in the year. They beat El Dorado Springs 48-36. Lamar's going to roll this one. I have them winning 40-7. District 7 out of the Kansas City area. Summit Christian out of Lee Summit against their 1 seed 13th against 2 seed and 12th ranked Holden. Very even. Summit a 49-28 winner over Noster. Holden knocks out the defending state runner-up Lafayette County 46-35, avenging a earlier season loss to Lafayette County. Close game. I have Holden winning this one 36-30. Again, it could go either way. In District 8, the 1 seed Lathrop, 4th in Brad's rankings against the 2 seed Lawson, 6th in Brad's rankings. Lathrop with a big fourth quarter last week. Macon led that game going into the second half 14-10 and, hung around, in a big fourth quarter from Lathrop pulls away from Macon. They win that game 45-14. Lawson outlasts Lexington 15-8. Earlier in the season, they matched up. Lathrop won 21-7. I don't think it's that close. 28-7 Lathrop. So that is our Class 2 bracketology. If you have anything you want to add on there, go right ahead. We're going to kind of roll into our Monroe City, Clark County breakdown. Last game, we'll just do kind of a recap of last game. Monroe City won that game 44-20. Monroe City broke out to a 30-0 lead behind big runs from Keenan Badsell, Zach Osborne. Badsell 322 yards on the ground that game. Osborne 191. Monroe City scored on their first 2 touchdowns on their first 3 offensive plays. They get the opening kickoff, a 10-yard run for Badsell, then a 51-yard run for Badsell for a touchdown. And then they get a big red zone stop on a KKO interception. They take over at the 7-yard line. First play there, Osborne breaks it for 93 yards and for a touchdown. So they went up early, 154 yards on your first 3 plays. Some big stops in the red zone, as we went through. KKO with the interception. Also had a 4th down breakup deep in the red zone on the other side in the second quarter to stop a drive. Clark does get 2 scores before half to make it 30-14. They capitalize on a fumble by Keenan Badsell on a short field, and then Monroe City, a very short drive late in the half. They punt away in a couple big pass plays, a long 30-yard run from Brunk, and they're able to get in, make it 30-14. It's a 2-score game at half. Monroe City able to force a 3 and out, and then the drive after that 3 and out, Keenan Badsell breaks a 55-yard touchdown run to extend that lead. He gets another 55-yard touchdown run in the fourth quarter. So there's no more scoring in the third quarter. And Clark was able to score in the fourth late with about a minute to go, JV versus JV. Final 44-20. Some of the stats from that game: Clark 31 carries, 233 yards. Monroe City 44 carries, 577 yards on the ground that game. Brunk was 8 for 23 for 137 yards and a pick. Blake Hayes 0 for 3 with a pick. Badsell 26 carries, 322. Osborne 15 for 191 for Clark County. Brunk, I had him at 14 for 97. I think the Harold Wig had him for over 100, but that's pretty close. And then Brunk 12 carries, 67 yards. Lapsley had about 50 yards receiving. So.
Some takeaways from the last game. Following that game, in a couple interviews, we heard the coach from Clark County really talk about his frustration with his own personal play calling. And I think some key takeaways that Michael had, just looking back at some of the film and watching what they did during the game. We talked about this actually during the pregame before last game. Their only loss prior to that was against Centralia. One of the big reasons for that loss is Centralia forced them to throw the ball and to play from behind. And that's essentially what happened in this game. Monroe got out to a fast start before Clark could throw the ball, and you see they went 8 for 23 for 137, and our defensive backs came to play. They were players of the game. And then the other piece of that, though, that just from a positive side, takeaway for Clark County, they had no real problem running the ball. Spencer Gregory was effective. Brunk was effective. And so Gotta think with the field conditions like it is that's going to play a part of his play calling tonight, and it also play a part of Kirby's game plan as he goes into the game.
Yeah, I mean, very interesting last game. You know, one of the other things I noticed on film too is, you know, it did not look like Clark County's receivers could separate from our defensive backs, but once we went up 3 scores in the third quarter, they went almost extensively to running just streaks down the field. There was no underneath passing game. It was all deep. And, you know, one thing I noticed at Monroe City, I'm sure that Brock Idris noticed, is there were a couple times where there was some running room for Brunk, and instead he's trying to throw it deep. Monroe City's able to get breakups after breakup after breakup. I mean, Blake Hayes, KKO, Lance Williams, all huge games. Brennan Wisdom comes in after KKO gets knocked out in the late third quarter and gets a huge pass breakup. Might have been, I think it was right around the start of the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
They go after Brennan Wisdom, hadn't played all game other than special teams. He gets a huge breakup, and, you know, they're able to survive. I think, you know, as you saw, and again, I may show you the video before we get to the keys of the game. I'll kind of give you an updated look of the field, but I don't think that we are going to see the same game tonight as we are now, for the main reason is the field is, you know, last game is in, you know, peak performance. Now we got, you know, a lot of the snow is off. There's still snow on about, I would say, you know, half the field.
At least half.
You know, they got the yard lines kind of cleared out so we can at least see what's going on. But it's going to be a different ball game, I think.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to also do a little show you, and then we'll kind of get into our keys of the game, and then ask away. I mean, we got, you know, we're going to have 10 minutes probably afterwards. We'll answer any questions, and, you know, if there's not, you know, we may. So
just a quick reminder on what Clark will most likely do. You'll see him in a pistol spread formation a lot. They really key on, it's almost a 3 or 4 person offense, which is Lapley, who's a running back that they split out wide, try to isolate, use the speed as a factor, and he was one that they were really keying on those straight nines up the field. Spencer Gregory is kind of their workhorse back. You're going to see him downhill a lot, and I tell you what, that guy can bring the heat. He brings a pow when he hits.
Very impressive last game.
Yes, very impressive. We'll see Brunk as well, where you'll see him throwing the ball, but you know, don't be surprised to see him lead the team in rushing again. That's one of the challenges Monroe has had really all year long, is containing the quarterback when either A, it's a run-pass option offense, or B, there's nobody open and it's clear on one side. Defensive ends, we've seen them get sucked in, so don't be surprised if Coach over there keys on that as tonight's game. But those 3 players are really kind of the key, will be key factors for Clark County going into tonight's game.
You know, and just kind of to touch on Brunk's running, he had 170, according to the Herald Whig, he had 175 yards rushing last week. Far and away their leading offensive threat. And he has 20 touchdowns rushing. He's called his number 157 times this year. So you're going to see a lot of Brunk. So I'm going to give you, we're about 41 minutes to game time. I'm going to flip this around and let you look at the field one more time, and then we'll kind of do our keys of the game and answer any questions. If we have time, we may go ahead and just announce the starting lineups here. We may do it on pregame too, but we do have some starters. So here is a live view of Langford Field. So again, nice cold weather. We're nice and toasty up here, but so
feels lovely in the press box.
It does.
Today.
It is fantastic.
Super thrilled with this heater between your legs.
All right. So keys of the game. When Monroe City is on offense and Clark County is on defense, I'll give my keys of the game, and then Jeremy will kind of touch on what his thoughts are. My keys are up front. Monroe City was absolutely dominant last game up front. You know, if they block like they did last game, you know, good things are going to happen offensively. For Clark, on the reverse side of that, they have to find an answer for Keenan Batzel. And last game they came out in a 4-3, which Monroe City has been just basically control. Any team that's come out with a 4-3 with the possible exception of Brookfield, Monroe City has absolutely controlled. Going back to the Helias game, Helias came out in a very similar 4-3 game. Batesville goes for 270. Clark County came out 4-3, and what that allows the Monroe City defense or offense to do is it allows your guards just to get all they have to do is get their guy turned.
Yep.
Then Saxbury is able to get to the second level, and it almost guarantees you 5 or 6, 10 yards. And I think Clark County, we'll see what they do. Maybe they come out and after watching the Palmyra tape, maybe they come out with an odd man front. Maybe they start walking linebackers into the A gap, which for those that don't know, A gap are the gaps right next to the centers. Or on either side of the center, maybe they do that. I do know that they got a lineman back that did not play against this first game. Dalton Sharfsberg or something. I'll look at the roster and get it right when I say the starters. But he brings another element of size, and then if he plays defensive line, that puts him and Goldbrick, their stud, both at 270. Or thereabouts on the defensive front, and maybe that allows them to fill that gap. So those are my keys to the game.
Yeah, just to echo some of the part of it. And when Monroe City is on offense, a lot of games, especially in the first game, we saw second level blocking was huge. So we saw the backside offensive lineman getting down to second level. By second level, I'm talking about backside linebacker and free safety, and that's what freed up Batesville and Osborne for 93-yard runs, 55-yard runs. We had back-end guys getting down the field, making those simple blocks that oftentimes creates a big hole. Tonight, that downfield blocking may not be the factor. It's really going to be that first 3 yards. Who's going to get their footing? Who's going to be able to control that line of scrimmage? For Monroe City, when they're on offense, they need to do what Monroe City does, which is have long, sustaining drives that results in a score. So 3 to 4 yards a pop tonight in the snow is going to be a big part of what Monroe City's game plan will be. And if they can do that, if they control the clock, control the ball, they're going to be really successful. On defense, Clark County, we actually saw them late in the game go to an 8-man front. So they shifted the 3 linebackers up, had them both fill the A gaps, and actually they had a B gap filled every single time. And it was oftentimes you come to the line and have to see where's that spot at. It forced Monroe to start running sweeps outside with Osborne. Now, in perfect conditions, that was deadly, and he took advantage of that. In tonight's conditions, I expect Clark County to go back to that, plugging those gaps and getting that 8-man front that they showed in the fourth quarter of last game, because that did bind up that front 7, or that front 5 there, and Batesville really wasn't a factor in the fourth quarter. Granted, the game at that point was pretty well open, but for Clark County, it's absolutely going to be key to control the line of scrimmage on defense by bringing some of those backers up and showing 7, 8 front throughout the game.
All right, so let's go to the other side. When Clark County's on offense, Monroe City's on defense, for it being a 30-0 lead at one time, Clark County moved the ball pretty well between the 20s. It's just they just could not capitalize in the red zone. So that's the key, I think. If I'm Clark County, I think Brunk needs to call his own number when they roll out the pass a little bit more. He needs to see if nothing is open, he can't force it like he did last game. He's got to take off. They got to get Gregory going. And in the passing game, I'm not so sure you don't go away from the passing game a whole lot. Unless there's something, they saw something or they trust their receivers more. Their receivers got no separation last game, so I think that's something where they need to be. If I'm Clark County, I'm coming out and I'm 80-20 running the football today. For Monroe City, one underrated thing, we mentioned that Clark County gets a lineman back. Holland and Pennywell both did not play that Clark County game. Getting them both back, probably your 2 most athletic linebackers, that helps negate some of the Brunk runs because they can put a spy on him from the middle linebacker spot, get to him, they can pursue a little bit better. So I think that's, a key. My 2 keys, though, outside contain. If they make this game if this game ends up being a game between the tackles, then Monroe wins. I think that between the tackles we're okay, but if Clark County can get Lapsley out on the jet sweep like they showed quite a bit, or get Brunk out in space, then you get those big chunk plays from Clark County, and that's something that could be a problem. We both like Gregory, and I think if I'm Clark County, I run Gregory. But I think Monroe City, you make Gregory be the guy that beats you. He's not gonna break the long runs, and you trust your defensive front. And then also with that outside contain, know where Lapsley is at all times. Last game they split him out wide, they ran him in the slot, they ran him at running back. He's going to be all over the place because they're going to try to find the matchups that they like, that they can exploit. Monroe City's got to be on top of it.
Lapsley could end up being the X factor on Clark County's offense as well. Going into last game, he kind of had a weak hamstring. It did limit his playing time. He was not on the field as much as what I think Clark County would have hoped to have him on the field. Again, with Clark County, I think the key for Clark County, just as Michael said, run the football. If the coach could go back and redo that previous game, I think he would have calmed down after those two big scores Monroe City had, not try to force the ball down the field with passes, and keep running the ball with Gregory and Brunk, and then that change of pace with Lapsley on those jet sweeps would have been one of the changes he would make. So tonight's factor for them, they got to get Brunk the ball. He really does need to be their leading rusher along with Gregory right behind him. And then take a few chances here and there. Be strategic on when those chances are, but don't force it down the field. Last thing I'll say is tonight, running those straight downfield passes for a jump ball, basically, I don't think it's going to get it done. I expect Clark County to come out and we'll start seeing them do some quick slants underneath to Lapsley as well as Spencer Gregory as a way of getting them into open field. And once they're in the open field, I don't care what this turf looks like right now. Those guys are quick, and they can make you miss. And so I expect them to do that on offense as well. For Monroe City's defense, I absolutely think the X factor for them is Pennywell and Holland. They did not play in the first game. Quite frankly, we probably had a quicker, more agile defense out there for the first game, whereas tonight we're going to be bigger, we're going to be more aggressive, we're going to be more physical with those two out there, and I think that's going to be a big part of tonight's game. We're going to see more running game from Clark County, which is going to require us to be bigger and play bigger than what we did last week. And then lastly, we had huge red zone stops in that first matchup. We can't expect that every game, but I think it's going to come down to that at the end. Who can control and stop each team in the red zone? Because we know a couple things. 4-down territory is anywhere inside the 40 on either side of the field. If you're inside the 40, your side of the field, you're going for it. And so I expect Monroe and Clark County, what it's going to come down to is who can have those two big stops inside the red zone and flip the field and start having one of those long sustained drives for a touchdown. So key to Monroe City right now, red zone defense, and then the X factor, Holland and Pennywell.
And the other thing we saw last week that Holland and Pennywell, both being there does is they have so much flexibility with their linebacking crew. What you're going to see tonight is you'll see the starting linebackers will be Holland, Lilly, and Gatlin Bixel. But you also have, passing downs. You can bring in Antoine. You can bring in Nolan Pennywell. You can keep them fresh. You can go big. You can go small. I mean, having your full assortment of defensive players is, this game. No, there's no excuses tonight. Both teams are 100% healthy from what I can, Clark County, I'm hearing they're healthy. Monroe City, I know I emailed Coach Kirby. He said we're good to go. So I think we're going to have a healthy game.
Yeah, one thing you said there, you brought in keeping fresh legs. The extreme heat and the extreme cold take a toll on the body, and so just because it's cold, that doesn't mean that your body's going to react and you're going to be stronger and fresher throughout the game.
No, you're breathing harder.
Yep.
You're not getting the air you normally do, and you're just cold. Your body's working harder to keep warm. So I see Clark County actually trying some field goals, which we had not seen. They have not made one, so I don't think it's probably a threat, but something to keep an eye on. But any questions before we head out of here? We plan on having another Facebook Live next week. If we do happen to pull this one out, we will be playing here Saturday at 1 o'clock, so I would assume Facebook Live would be about noon, assuming we would win. If this is the end of the road, we are planning on doing something, whether it's some sort of podcast or just some weekly Facebook Lives. I'm sure Jeremy will join, Ryan will join. this is something we really enjoy doing. We hope you guys enjoy watching. So it's something that we will do something during the basketball season to kind of keep things up, keep you abreast of things, and just gives everybody a chance to talk about Monroe City sports that we all enjoy. So, anything you want to add?
No, Michael, I think you did good, buddy.